Nelson Mandela was an international symbol of peace who dedicated his whole life fighting against racism and oppression from apartheid, an oppressive and racist system applied by white rulers. After spending about 27 years in prison, Madiba was elected as the first democratic president of South Africa and dedicated his life for building a multiracial country. Mandela was born in Maveso in 1918. He was adopted by the King of Thembu after the death of his father, and was the first person in his family who went to the school where he was named as Nelson. His admiration for British political culture and his developing debate skills made him realize that he was not part only of a tribe, but part of Africa. He cursed his secondary studies in a place that was based on English traditions called Health Town, and was accepted on an elite institution in leaders formation called the University of Hair, where he met Oliver Tambo, a loyal friend in the road to achieving freedom, and it was until he got in that place that he realized about the injustice that black people must deal with. After a discussion with the university administration, he was expelled and was demanded to return to his home for an arranged marriage, but instead of it, he and his friend Tambo ran to Johannesburg. In 1941, Mandela met Walter Sisulu, who helped him with a job in an office and treated him with respect, recognizing his leadership skills. In 1944, Mandela and his companions decided to join the African National Congress and started a branch called ANC Youth League. In 1960, he collaborated in creating a campaign of defiance to the apartheid and was imprisoned next to other collaborators because of a law that banned ANC. In 1961, he left his peaceful methods of resistance and was captured in 1962 accused of incitation and leaving the country without a passport. He defended himself in the trial in which he pointed out the inequality within the court, who decided to sentence him to life prison in 1964. He was sent to Robben Island, a place for political prisoners, where he earned even a higher symbolism of the repression from the apartheid. In 1985, after international pressure, the President P.W. Botha said he would release Mandela if he gave up to the violent instrument of opposition to the government, and Mandela neglected this offer. But there were more negotiations with the President F.W. de Klerk, the successor of the ex-President Botha. In 1990, the President de Klerk announced the release of Nelson Mandela. In 1993, a new constitution was signed, which led them to hold elections in April of the next year, and the Peace Nobel Prize was won by de Klerk and Mandela. For the first time in 1994, black people were able to vote, giving the victory to ANC. In May of 1994, Mandela was declared as the first black democratic president of South Africa. President Nelson Mandela, at the age of 75, started a challenging period in which a country flattered by many years of oppression and discrimination deposited all their hopes of a new South Africa in Mandela's hands. Guided by the concept of national unity, his government focused on covering the basic needs of the Africans, such as education, health, and improving their life quality, emphasizing the rural areas. In order to achieve this mission, his government changed their economic system of a reconstruction and development program to a growth, employment, and redistribution program, which was more neoliberal. His most relevant achievements were the breaking of the walls of segregation in education and in cultural production, which was totally owned by apartheid. His government also accomplished several diplomatic points not only in South Africa, but around the whole continent. Mandela acted as a peacemaker, inspiring the idea of an African practice of consensual conflict resolution, applied in many of the countries that were experimenting violence or armed conflicts. As an example for the world, South Africa played an important role in of the creation of the 1996 Polyndaba Treaty in order to urge the African continent to achieve a nuclear-free land. The most difficult challenge was to overcome the difference within his government. He assigned important positions in his cabinet to some of the old rulers and to ANC dignitaries, such as Mbeki from the ANC and the ex-president de Klerk. With this method, Mandela pretended to show how national unity could be achieved, but also was used for gave support to a new government without experience in running a country. Additionally, the adoption of a new constitution in 1996, which was based on ANC bases such as their Charter of Rights and the idea of how all the human rights protect all the people equally, regardless race or gender. At the same time, a problem difficult to overcome was the application of new policies in South Africa, because in the transition of democracy, policies from the apartheid must be erased, which gave some problems with chapters of the old government that remained open, and also difficulties of applying the new policies without enough funds by some provincial governments. Despite the hard obstacles during his presidency, Nelson Mandela ended his period in 1999, acclaimed as the same way when he started his mandate.